Whether you are just starting your career in veterinary medicine or you've been in the veterinary industry for a long time, you're going to want to find your special place in this profession where you can thrive and enjoy your career and your life. And some people really like being a generalist in veterinary medicine, and that's great. But in today's society, we are getting more and more specialized, and you can really niche down and have a really thriving, fulfilling career. And I'm going to show you an example of that very thing. I have Dr. Karen Trainor, and she is a veterinary pathologist that specialized in derm pathology. So I'm going to share her story, everything from her first experience into veterinary pathology, and we're going to show you how she's created this very specific career. She still gets to do quite a diverse different things in that profession, and she is loving it, and it feels very fulfilled in her veterinary life. So without further ado, this is Dr. Karen Trainor.
During the summer between my second and third year, I had landed an opportunity at a primate research center, and that was where I sort of got my first exposure to pathology outside of classes. And my mentor there that summer had told me, he sat me down at the end of the summer and he said, Karen, you should be a pathologist. And so I was like, oh, okay then. All right. And I had so much respect for him because he had gone to Cornell and had a PhD and does a lot of research and is very well regarded in his field. So it meant a lot to me that someone told me, hey, this is what you should do. So I was like, okay, I'll give that some thought. So then I started lining up some pathology externships and some different opportunities that I could find, and I fell in love going to gross rounds, Friday afternoons. I just loved it.
So, being a resident, and I know in different specialties, there can still be lots of different paths kind of from there. So, I mean, it sounds like you're enjoying your residency. How do you decide the next step? Because that's always like the hard part, right? Once we're kind of at the end of that training and we have to go out onto the world. So, how did you decide what to do from there?
I was really torn before my residency, after vet school. Even though I knew I wanted to go into pathology, I couldn't quite close the door because I'd enjoyed my clinical years so much and working with animals and clients. So I'd done a small animal rotating internship in Rochester. And so, having that clinical experience while going into residency, my dream job would have been to work at a large specialty practice and do pathology there and be able to interact with the clinicians and have that sort of clinical exposure and do pathology. But there's only one or two places in the country that do that. So the three main options when you come out of pathology residency are tox path, so doing research, working usually with like a drug company, academia, or going into diagnostic pathology, usually in the form of working in a reference lab or perhaps a state diagnostic lab. But those are really the main three options. And so I ended up, it was during the Great Recession, so I didn't quite have a lot of choices. So I ended up doing a fellowship in cardiovascular pathology, and I really enjoyed that. But my heart, I think, of those three main options was really in diagnostic pathology. But I still love teaching and being in sort of that research type of setting. So it was very hard to choose, but I ended up working in a reference lab. And then with the way pathology is set up, there's been a lot of consolidation in the field. So that lab was bought by a larger competitor and dissolved. So then I was faced with, well, what next? So I thought, well, my dream job was always to work in some capacity where you have some more contact with clinicians and work more closely with them than in a reference lab setting where you're so far removed. So I thought, well, my dream job would be to work more closely with clinicians, have some ability to do teaching, some research, some, writing manuscripts, but focusing on diagnostic pathology, but especially germ path, because I really fell in love with germ path. So a job like that did not exist. So I thought I would take some time to research it. And I worked as an independent contractor for a variety of different reference labs. small boutique labs around the country. And then when I was ready, I ventured out on my own and got my own clients and really niched down into derm path specifically. So now I have clients in 39 states across the country, and I do consulting. I run a vet derm path forum on Facebook, and we have over 5,500 members from around the world, more than 100 countries. So I get to do teaching and consulting, and so it's a blend of everything that I ever could have wanted. So it's a dream come true.
That is really awesome. I like how you didn't let that it didn't seem to exist and you started to create your own dream. And but that's not easy. That's actually very terrifying. It definitely can be, I'm sure. What was that like, that process of trying to talk yourself into, well, w- I'm in control. So what can I control? What am I going to do? And then start building your own business. Like, what were some of your thoughts and concerns through that?
Oh, absolutely. I had a lot of doubts, it was terrifying at times and still is, because you never know what can happen. But I always love that motto, improvise, adapt, and overcome. And that's what I told myself, getting into vet school, going through vet school, residency, studying for boards. Pathology boards have, at least historically, had a notoriously low pass rate, sometimes 25%. And so it was a lot of pressure, especially during the recession when there were only like 8 jobs listed in North America for pathology.
Oh, wow.
So it was a lot of pressure to pass that. That's the motto I'd always told myself. No matter what came up, I would somehow find a way, and then just reach out to people and ask for advice. So I have to thank a lot of people along my journey in the past and even now. I reach out to mentors and other people that are running their own businesses and ask them what they did, what worked for them, what didn't work for them. And people were always so generous with their time and their knowledge, and I'm very grateful.
Yeah. I think we have a unique profession that is when it comes to vet or, even in the whole vet family of veterinary technicians, we really do care and try to support each other. I think especially in the time now, we're all needed. Anything that we can do to help the profession, I think we try. So a lot of good mentorship, I think, in this profession. It may require actually asking for it, though. It may not just necessarily drop in your lap.
Absolutely. It required just taking that step and reaching out to total strangers, either calling them or writing to them or walking up to them at conferences and just saying, like, hi. Oh, letting them know that I really admired what they were doing, or and that if they had any advice for someone that was starting out trying to do something either similar or slightly different, more niche down, since I was really trying to focus on derm path. But everyone's been so wonderfully kind and helpful, and it's been fascinating to learn that there's so many different paths aside from just general practice. There's so much that you can do with a veterinary degree. It's really been eye opening.
Yeah. Well, as you've been able to meet some of these individuals, do you have like an example of one in particular that really inspired you that was like a unique path that you didn't know existed until you met that individual?
Hmm. Well, one of my colleagues, she does dental pathology. And so I did not know that, and like oral pathology.
Yeah.
And she's written a textbook and she does a lot of lecturing and speaking and publishing. And she was one of the people that really encouraged me because when I was starting out and making that transition from being an independent contractor to taking on my own clients, I would say I was sort of torn whether or not to go the option of reading all types of biopsies, surgical biopsies, or really niching down and following my like secret inner dream to just do derm path or like 90% plus derm path because that's what I really love. And I remember talking with her and she told me, Karen, go for it. Like, niche down. That's what you really want. Go ahead, go all in. Go ahead and do that. That will set you apart. And it seemed really terrifying because it seemed I wanted to serve all veterinarians. I wanted to serve everyone. I wanted to help everyone and do everything. But that's not necessarily sustainable and perhaps not what I would have been best suited to do. So it was really inspiring to hear her success. And also, there was another pathologist similarly that gave me the same advice, and he does only ocular pathology. So he had given me similar advice as well. He said, just follow your dream. And both have been so successful that I know one of them had stopped accepting new clients because their practice was full. And so I was like, okay, all right. I did not know that was a thing. I did not know you could make a living being that specific, but I will do that. That's because that's what I really, really deeply want.
Yeah, you're following what I always hear from entrepreneurs, even outside of veterinary medicine, is the riches are in the niches, right? It's finding your unique gift to the profession, and it's really fun to be able to find that because I think we can get a lot of enjoyment out of it, and there's there is need for whatever you find as your niche or niche or however you want to say it. There is a need. So you mentioned something about you think that they're successful. For you, how do you define success?
For me, it's about being fulfilled and doing all the different aspects that are important to me. Like being my own boss and having my own practice means that I get to take time off when I need it to go be with my daughter or go help out in her preschool classroom or attend, a holiday party or something during the day that I feel like maybe I wouldn't have been able to do in previous positions I was in. So I really like that and getting to choose conferences that I go to. Running the Vet Derm Path Forum is something that brings me a lot of joy and fulfillment. Doing consulting on BIN, like I have such a wide range of interests. And so being able to pursue those without the worry of, getting tenure or promotion or something like that, having that stress hanging over me, to me is very fulfilling. So I teach Derm Path to dermatology residents at independent private practices. So I really enjoy teaching residents, so that fulfills that need for teaching and building those strong relationships with my clients and getting to know them. And then practicing the way that I want to practice is very important to me. I don't have quotas as I would have at a reference lab or even as an independent contractor. I'm not handed, 60 or 80 cases a day and say you must get all of these done in a day because I felt like I couldn't do my very best for every single case. So now I can have a smaller caseload and really get into it and I can apply because I did have that clinical sort of experience, exposure, during vet school and the internship. And I've always been very attached to the clinical side of things. So I love reading through the histories, trying to put all the pieces of the puzzle together. So that is the most fulfilling thing to me. Like I just had a case yesterday. It was a drug reaction, and it was, I got to text back and forth with the dermatologist, and we were putting all the pieces of the puzzle together and getting all the history. And he was texting with the owner, and then we figured out, oh yeah, it's probably a reaction to this medication that was causing this really bizarre inflammatory pattern. That's really rare. So that is what's most satisfying to me is being sort of that person that can handle those really tough, weird, bizarre cases that require a lot more in depth research and being able to take the time necessary to really dive deep into that and really do my very best to get to the answer, to get that pet a diagnosis and get that clinician some usable information they can take and not just write a report that's word salad, but something that they can take and like, okay, I know what my next steps are. I know what I need to do and I can help this animal and help that owner and help them to feel better sooner. So that's what's most fulfilling.
Yeah. It's good to find your niche, but at the same time, one of the values you expressed is I still have flexibility. I still get to do a lot of different things. So finding a niche doesn't mean cornered, right? Because there's still so much you could do with one particular interest or topic in veterinary medicine. I'm glad that we can kind of explain the differences there too.
And I really enjoy it. I also have some clients that are not dermatologists or derm specific. I work with some equine specialists and other general practitioners, but they send in really interesting cases. So even though I've made derm path, my bread and butter, it's, the vast majority of what I do, like, I still really enjoy working with, horses and stuff. I enjoy doing that mixed practice. So that's something I really enjoy. So I have that flexibility to sort of choose who I work with and how we work together. And I'm so grateful for my clients because they're all amazing and they make what I do just a joy every day.
Want more from Vet Life Reimagined? Yes, please. Well, check out the main page of Vet Life Reimagined or click on the next video.